Good evening and welcome to Market Analysis on a Monday evening. We normally drop this report in CC Pro every Monday, but given everybody's heads a bit fried with the way the market's been, I thought we'd jump on, do a quick summary of the markets, what's coming this week. We've got a Fed meeting and we have some big news stories as well to get through. We will go through it all and we'll try and get to some questions if we can, if we have time. Make sure you drop a like on the stream and we will do this more often. As I said, we do market analysis every week in CC Pro. We set up the week with your charts, with some analysis, some headlines of what's to come. I think notable place to start today is probably with metals. Gold finally eclipsed $5,000 earlier today, reaching as high as $5,107. Silver getting up into the $117 range. Silver is up massively over the last couple of weeks. Metals absolutely ripping higher. I think copper is at all-time high. Platinum, palladium are all showing loads of strength as well. We'll talk about that probably at some point during the stream. We also have the S&P 500 closing in on a new all-time high. Nasdaq not far away either, and the Russell 2000 is just shy of its all-time high. So markets, everything bar crypto, looking very strong, but what we are seeing is the start of a DXY breakdown. We'll cover what that means in a sec. Alright, if we look at Bitcoin on the daily, we can see we did get a little pump earlier up to 887, call it. We're now down 885. It does look like we could go a bit lower, if I'm honest. Tuesdays before the FOMC release are normally pretty bearish. We normally see some de-risking, some money getting taken off the table. There's literally trillions at stake when these meetings happen across all markets. So it is natural that we see a bit of de-risking. People just want to move into cash for two reasons. One, they want to de-risk, so they want to be in cash in case the markets do crash or some negative news gets leaked, but also so that it can take advantage if there is a big change of direction or there is something else happening. So I expect most markets to kind of have a pretty non-important day tomorrow, nothing really to write home about, and then the volatility will really uptick on Wednesday as we approach the Fed meeting. Fed decision will be 7 PM UK time on Wednesday with press conference at 7:30. We'll probably go live on Wednesday night about 9 PM just to cover everything. We might do it members only actually. So if you're in CC Pro, you'll get access to that stream. If you're not in CC Pro, you need to sign up tonight so that you get access to that stream. Let's have a look. We will talk about the rate cut and why the Fed are about to make a huge mistake, but we'll get to that. If you're not on CC Pro, there's a link. Get in before Wednesday. Wednesday, we're going to do a members-only stream on the Fed meeting. So, Bitcoin looking a bit heavy, to be honest. Looks like we could probably come back down to the bottom of this range, maybe 85, maybe even fill this wick down to 84 before we start moving up. I think it's just a matter of time. I think every other market is showing that Bitcoin's about to play catch-up. Henrik Zeberg, who's actually pretty bearish on Bitcoin long term, I think he's actually predicted that Bitcoin could go as low as $7,000 in the next bear market. I don't know if I believe that, but what he shows is that all markets typically top at the same time. So all these people saying Bitcoin has already topped and we're about to go into a bear market, he's kind of making the argument that that wouldn't make sense and actually all markets top together. So Bitcoin's about to play catch up and we'll probably see a top in the first half of this year. That's kind of what we've been saying for a while, probably since end of November time. We did say first half of 2026 is going to be pretty bullish. We've not had it yet, but I do think, look, I'll be honest, I thought the Fed were going to capitulate and cut on Wednesday. It doesn't look like they're going to. To me, that's a massive mistake, and the number one reason that's a mistake is true inflation is now 1.2%. Inflation is falling at a rapid rate, and what that means is that we're actually probably going to go into a deflation period. Deflation is terrible for an indebted nation. It means that the debt becomes more expensive, and actually deflation is a bigger risk and a bigger worry for banks around the world than inflation. Deflation is a real problem, and actually it encourages people to save and hold on to their money rather than invest and spend their money in the economy, because things are going to get cheaper the longer deflation persists. So it kind of grinds an economy to a halt. Debt gets more expensive. It's just a real problem for governments that have a lot of debt. So this number should frighten the Fed into action. Looks like they're not going to. Looks like Powell's going to fight back against Trump. That's fine. I think it plays out later this year. We get rate cuts. We'll probably get faster rate cuts. I would imagine if any of the Fed officials are talking in the next few weeks, we'll probably see definitely a rate cut in March, but potentially a 50 basis point cut in March. And by the summer, by the end of the summer, interest rates will be at least 1% lower than they are just now. Yeah, you can see here, Trueflation to me is a bit more accurate, but to be honest, I think all the numbers are kind of fudged. Bitcoin Magazine reporting that the SEC and the CFTC is going to have a crypto event on Thursday, and that's to discuss efforts to deliver President Trump's promise to make the US the capital of crypto. I think we are getting closer to regulation coming in. I think once that regulation comes in, one thing it's going to do is get rid of a lot of the market manipulation from people like Binance. I think it's actually shocking that Binance literally wrecked the market of about $40 billion and no one even talks about it. I think it's pretty worrying that the crypto market's so quick to shrug it off and just move on. I don't think we've heard the last of it. I think some proper shady stuff happened on the 10th of October, and I think it will come out in the long run. It's probably going to come out after we see the regulation come in, and we'll probably have like a draw a line in the sand moment, and then after that everybody will tell you the true story about what happened that day and how manipulated it was to bankroll Binance. Zero Hedge reporting. So this isn't me like trying to score points or whatever. I've said for well over a year we're not going to have a recession. In fact, August 2024, I said we're not going to have a recession anytime soon. They just will not allow a recession. Recessions have basically been banned by politicians. And the reason that recessions have been banned is because a recession leads to higher deficits for countries. So if America goes in, America's trading right now with a $2 trillion deficit. If they go into a recession, they have higher payouts through Social Security and things like that, and lower tax receipts. That means the deficit goes higher. They can't allow that. They're going to print and they're going to keep the economy rolling. And Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, Trump, anyone that JD Vance, like anyone associated with Trump has basically said they're going to run the economy hot. Well, we've just got early indications that Q4 was 5%. That will be an insane reading if it comes in above 5%. That's a massive win for Trump. It's a massive win for the economy. But more importantly, what it signals is this is before they start running the economy hot. So what's it going to get to this year? 8, 9%. Elon Musk says 10%. If the economy is running at 8 to 10% GDP growth, then I think that shifts the midterms in the favour of the Republicans. So yeah, interested to see what happens. But yeah, 5% number's huge. This is early, so I don't think you get true GDP numbers until probably next month. But yeah, early indications look really strong. And to be honest, you know, this isn't about Trump, this isn't about politics, but it does show like what they are doing is trying to benefit the economy, bring down the deficit. This is all stuff they said they were going to do. They're doing it. The only people that are bitter is all us crypto folks, because it's not impacting the crypto market yet. However, I've said it for ages, the catch up will be crazy. The all-time highs will be insane. And Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins are going to have a tremendous time when they finally move. So it's just about patience. Zoomer Field, they post some decent stuff to be fair, reporting that Tether bought 27 tons of gold in Q4, currently valued at $4.4 billion. Tether, the most profitable company per employee in the history of the world. Tether just going from strength to strength. I think anyone trying to issue a stablecoin that's not USD backed and to try and compete with Tether is just insanity. I don't know why they're all doing it. I think Tether's another company that will probably IPO in the States. It could be one of the most valuable companies in the history of the world when it finally IPOs. And I think it will IPO probably this year at some point. I think that'll be a big wake-up call to banks and institutions. And then you've got Strategy acquiring another 2,900 Bitcoin. They've now got 712,000, which I think is about 4% of the total supply of Bitcoin ever. Bitcoin's just doubling down. MicroStrategy, and Michael Saylor doubling down on their Bitcoin bet. I think we're going to see a catch-up trade on that. MicroStrategy is basically just Bitcoin with leverage. I think that will be a huge payoff in the coming weeks. I do think 2026 will be a massive year for MicroStrategy. I actually think this is a bottoming range, and actually it's very similar to what Tesla did. So if you actually look at this range that MicroStrategy's in here, it's very similar to what Tesla did in here before it went on and ended up putting in a new all-time high. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw something like this play out in the coming weeks for MicroStrategy. Let me find, something like that play out, and you could see MicroStrategy back up above $400 in the next few weeks. Wouldn't surprise me. I think it will play catch up pretty quick, because I actually think a lot of this was manipulation from the MSCI stuff, the JP Morgan stuff, and I think the comeback trade will be huge. All right, let's jump into the chat. Let's see who's in. Some new faces in by the looks of it. Alexander saying any chance of a rate cut. We've kind of covered that. I think the one thing I would say is, regardless of if they cut or not, they should be cutting. They should 1000% be cutting. Unemployment's going to be a massive talking point for the next probably 10 years, but it's really going to start ramping up. So even Nike are paying people off to replace them with AI. There's massive changes going to happen in the workspace. If you're not using AI every single day, you're falling behind, and that's a fact. Happy to talk to anyone about AI. I think the things you could do with it, the way you can actually build stuff, launch products, just even make your life easier. AI is going to have a huge impact on life. I think the next probably narrative in AI will be health data, health advice. There's already reports that, there's certain AIs that can scan images and find health issues quicker than doctors, diagnose people. AI is going to be massive, and unemployment is going to be a massive concern for the Fed if they don't get ahead of it. On top of that, you've then got deflation. I think they're just losing the battle completely with the economy. Let's see. Lee Crypto Guy says he was thinking of buying a few kilograms of copper. I think copper's an amazing buy. I think copper... there's a guy called Chamath. He was one of the early executives at Facebook. He's like billionaire, probably. Multi-millionaire. He's on the All In podcast. He's a really clever guy. He said copper is his... If he could only invest in one thing for the next 10 years, it would be copper. The US needs to double its electricity grid in order to fulfill demand by AI over the next few years. The grid is copper. Like, without copper, you don't have an electricity grid. Without an electricity grid, you don't have AI, you don't have data centers, you don't have anything. Not to mention how much copper is going to go into power, data centers, AI, but there's also a scramble for it right now because every world power knows they need more electrification. So yeah, copper's a good buy. Don't know where you're buying the physical and storing it. That would be my one concern, because like I always talk about physical silver, and obviously founded Dominion, but the challenge with physical silver is like try to sell it. Like you're getting offered below spot prices to sell right now, and by the time it gets there, by the time they value it, by the time they assess it, what are you actually getting? So buying and selling is actually quite tricky for physical. So yeah, I still think it's a good investment though. Christina says, can you explain your conviction in coins you have mentioned in previous streams that have since dropped? Yeah, like the entire market's dropped, to be fair. I think it doesn't change my conviction. I bought it for a reason. The choppiness is just part of the game, to be honest. It's not where we thought, or I thought we would be in the market. If I'm brutally honest, I thought we would be much higher, much further on. If you went back 2 years, you'd probably, I'd probably have expected to be out the market by this point in 2026. But here we are. We play the cards that were dealt. Yeah, the crypto market hasn't moved. So if we were sitting here and alts had all ran and there's, one or two hadn't, then that would be a case of, well, wait, maybe I need to reassess what I'm holding and what I'm holding out for. The fact of the matter is the others chart is still down in the dumps. It's barely moved. It's back at the 200-week moving average. Hopefully it holds its support at 198 billion, but we've not put in a new all-time high since back here in 2021. So to me, nothing's happened. So why would I lose conviction with something when the entire market hasn't actually moved yet? We're still down here, basically the same price as we were back in 2023. So yeah, for me, the only time to really question conviction, question what you hold, is when the entire market runs and something doesn't. Then you have to question whether you should continue to hold on to it or not. We're not in that position. I think the time to assess performance of coins is at the end of the cycle or end of the market move. So if, for example, you hold a bunch of DEX tokens, so you hold Jupiter, Uni, Sushi, maybe you hold in Hype, for example, you hold the coins and they all run except one of them, then you have to go back and think, well, is there a problem? Like, is it ever going to run? Maybe not, because we've had the DEX token narrative, but we've not had that yet. The entire market's not moved. So even Total 3, which is more likely to move before others, but the others charts not even made a new all-time high. So yeah, until others charts breaking out to all-time highs, then I don't think we can really question whether altcoins will run or not. My conviction's never changed. I think we see all-time highs for majority of the market. And even if we don't get new all-time highs for certain tokens, they're going to be up significantly higher than they currently are. So, yeah, I was speaking to somebody the other day about Opulus. Opulus is trading way below where I expected it to be. But, it doesn't mean it's not going to move. The entire market has had liquidity sucked out at time and time again. Even if we go back to the 10th of October, Binance pretty much wrecked the altcoin market. So yeah, if we go back in time, there's very few coins to do this with, but I did it in CC Pro the other day. I bet people were talking about conviction in Dogecoin, and would Dogecoin run when it was trading down 0.001 back in 2020, or even here when it dropped 56% going into 2021, when Bitcoin was breaking out at this point, for example. Were people questioning Dogecoin there? Probably. Guess what? It went on to do this. So, yeah, I think, what is that? A 22,000% move between November 2020 and May. So in 154 days, it moved 23,000%. I'm not saying everything's going to move like that. I'm not saying most things are going to move like that. My point is that, it's easy to question conviction in the moment when things are dropping, but, would you have lost conviction in Dogecoin back in 2020? If you did, you would have missed out on a 23,000% move. So, yeah, I think everybody just needs to chill out, to be honest, with calling coins dead, calling coins never going to pump, they're never going to see all-time high. Well, we've heard it all before. If you've been here for previous cycles, you've heard the same stories. There's too many coins this time compared to the last time. Same thing got said in 2021 versus 2017. So these aren't new complaints. This is just a fact of investing in crypto, unfortunately. Let's see. Scott, what's your educated guess on the start of a bull run? Well, I think Bitcoin is in a bull run, to be fair. I don't think there's any debate that Bitcoin's in a bull run. It's been in a bull run since 2022. Maybe 2023, you could say, but it's been an uptrend. Bear in mind, Bitcoin's last all-time high was in October. So it's not that long ago that we had a new all-time high for Bitcoin. If you think here, we put an all-time high in January. We never made a new all-time high until May. So, 4 months? We're coming up on 4 months for Bitcoin here. So, yeah, do we make a new all-time high by the end of February? Potentially. It wouldn't be out the question. And you can see, we normally move up pretty quickly. It's these periods of sideways and down that kill everybody. So, yeah, all-time high before the end of February, it's not out the question. I think you just need to take it week by week, really. You can't maybe predict too far out at the moment with everything that goes on in the world. Yeah, MicroStrategy on Trading 212 might be, I don't, to be fair, I've only got it in my pension, so I don't actually trade it or buy it like that. I literally just allocate to it. I think it's got potential to be a generational type company, like buying Amazon in 2005 or something like that. And the reason I say that is because they own 4% of Bitcoin that will ever be created. So unless something massive, categorically life-changing for Bitcoin happens, which I don't see happening anytime soon, I actually think, if anything, the US government will probably step in and protect MicroStrategy long-term. Then I think it could be a really safe bet for the long-term. Not financial advice, obviously. Yeah, Virtuals is a great AI bet. Do you see an all-time high for MV? No, to be fair, I wonder if it's MV on this, because they removed it from... Let's just... So, let's see. So, all-time high was $1.23 with a market cap of 700 million. I mean, maybe unlikely that it gets back to all-time high, but does it get back into... Let's have a look. Like, it could easily do 500 million market cap. 500 million is a drop in the ocean. If we look at this stat, it sums it up. Silver had a market cap of 1.5 trillion in 2024. The market cap of silver today was $6 trillion. So, like, crypto, everybody in crypto thinks that crypto's huge and it's this big market. Bitcoin's got less of a market cap than silver's added in the last 8 weeks. Like, the minute Wall Street starts allocating to crypto, things are going to go crazy, especially with ETFs and stuff like that. Obviously, there's not going to be an MV ETF, that's not what I'm saying. But for MV to get to a $500 million market cap, that is actually not very hard. I explained this in CC Pro the other day. It doesn't mean $500 million needs to flow into a coin. It just, like, if there was $1 million worth of buy pressure on something like Opulus, I think it sends it, like, I don't know what it is, like 50x higher. Could MV go to 500 million market cap? Easy. It doesn't mean $500 million of buy pressure. It just means that there's enough buy pressure to get the token moving. I think I've spoke about Opulus. This week it's MV. It's all the same. Just because tokens drop, you don't instantly lose conviction. So the entire market has dropped, but have you not reflected on the coins you mentioned have dropped to levels that looks like they need to be cut as bad place? I take on board what you're saying, but if they aren't catching some rises when other coins do, it would seem they will be lost to safer place. But there's more coins now. You can get stuck holding your bag. Yeah, you can get stuck holding your bags, but not at this point in the cycle. So if you want to cut, I guess I would flip it and say, so if you want to cut Opulus, for example, so say you cut Opulus today, what do you buy? Like, what is your safe play? Because, like, Solana's down pretty significantly, XRP's down, but if you actually look at Cardano, way down. These are big market caps, and then you go out in the risk curve, you go a bit riskier because you want to, Arbitrum. Well, let's ignore this candle, but let's take this all-time high. Still down 94%. Most of the market is down in the 80 to 95% range. So the problem everybody's got is they're looking at their holdings and kind of jealous or envious of certain coins that have pumped. But it's a handful of coins across a market of probably 1 million tokens. If you look at Zcash, at what point would you have called this dead? Would it have been here when we dropped 71% in December 2024? The entire market dropped there, but 71%, and then you would have missed out on a move like this. If you've completely lost conviction, there's no harm in selling. Like, I don't have a problem with people selling. It doesn't actually bother me if people sell and move into other things. But, Axie Infinity moved 17.5% today. Based on what? Like, how would you have predicted that? In actual fact, in the last 3 weeks, Axie Infinity's up 213%. At the same time, the entire market's down. So, hindsight's 2020. It's really easy to predict runners, and I see this in CC Pro all the time. It's like so obvious those coins weren't going to do well. It's obvious in hindsight, or it's obvious just now. As I said before, I wouldn't lose conviction at this stage in the cycle. SWI is one of the top referenced coins by Raoul Paul. I can't remember. Real Visions, his network, they all talk about SWI. Well, SWI's massively underperforming. So, again, there's no reason to write off coins when the rest of the market has underperformed. If the rest of the market was flying and your token was not moving, no one was talking about it, the team weren't even talking about it, then you might have an argument. But for me, I think it's too risky. You're basically just at that point chasing pumps, and then where does it stop? Because if you then FOMO into something today, and in 2 months' time everything else is running and it's not, do you sell it and then chase something else? And do you just constantly go round a merry-go-round trying to chase stuff that you think are safe plays? The reality is that there's not really a safe play in crypto unless you want to just buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe a bit of Solana, but then you sacrifice the upside gains, I would say. You can get stuck holding bags, but you're not holding bags right now when the market's not performing. The market's down massively. And altcoins, I said this to somebody the other day, it's like people keep saying, are we entering a bear market for altcoins? Well, I would argue we've probably never really came out of a bear market for some altcoins. So the next phase for the altcoin market is actually the bull run, which we've not really been in, you could argue. So let's see. I think, do you know what? Like, to be fair, it's good questions, Christina, and I feel bad because I feel like I've just basically kind of not had a go, but I think it's because I hear this every single day. Every single day somebody's saying we should cut this coin. This coin's dead. This coin's a lost cause. This coin will never do an all-time high. And what frustrates me is that every day it's a different coin. And when you actually look at history, it's the same as the recession calls, the stagflation, we're going into depression. These are all calls that I've heard over the last 2 years. None of them have come true. None of them will come true. But the problem is, if you actually go back in history and you look at some of the charts, like look at Cardano. Cardano was like crazy low, 2 cents back in 2020. Even here, when the market's flying, Cardano drops 50%. So like, there's no way that you can know when this is going to happen, this massive spike. So you either sit on your hands and hold what you hold, or you move into stuff, which is fine as well. Some people will move, and that makes sense for them. But then, how do you know when to hold them and not to sell if something else moves? And the dangerous game in crypto, and we see it all the time, is XRP will start flying tomorrow, and everybody that's holding Solana will FOMO into XRP. But you've already missed the rally. The only way to capitalize on the full pump is by holding from the bottom up, not buying halfway up because you think it's a better idea. And we see this all the time. Like, whenever we do one-to-ones, I do a lot of one-to-ones these days, and I always get asked, should I move into this? Should I buy new coins? Should I do this? And the answer I always give is, if you don't believe in a token anymore, sell it. There's no point if you really don't believe in it. But if you're listening to somebody that they don't hold it, or they don't believe in it, and they're giving you advice, then that kind of muddies the waters. It's kind of that saying is, don't listen to somebody that you wouldn't take advice from, because yeah, they're not as motivated by you. Look at VeChain. You know, VeChain is a top market cap coin. New low for the cycle, if we're calling it a cycle. New low since 2020. Is it dead? Do we write that off? Probably not. But yeah, Zilliqa, new low for the cycle. Do we write it off? Like, how many coins do you start writing off as never going to pump, never going to make new all-time highs? Algorand, down at the lows. Atom, down at the lows. Lowest prices since March 2020, which was COVID. Like, you could literally go through about 1,000 coins and claim that they're dead and they're never going to pump based on the exact same theory as Opulus, MV, Flame, whatever token that we're bashing this week. So I think that's what's frustrating, is just look at charts. You know, this spike, you know, you look at Uniswap, great example. You know, November 2020 market was flying, 199. It went to $44. So 22x, but who would have known that was coming? It's really hard. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think silver will probably go through a pullback at some point. But yeah, it's pulled back pretty massively today. I think it doesn't really matter what it does short term. I think long term it's going to be, it's going to move massively over the next 5 years. I think when you invest in metals, you have to be prepared for that long term horizon. It's kind of one of those things that you buy and hold for the long run. But yeah, gold's selling off as well, back to $5,000. Interestingly, they've both got CME gaps to fill as well. So could we see gold back in here, back at $4,600, fill that CME gap? Potentially. Silver, less so. I'm sure I spotted one earlier. In fact, they've just filled this one here. And that one's been filled, so yeah. The other thing you've got to remember is there's big players in the silver market like JP Morgan, Bank of America, who are all short. So they're going to try and manipulate the price down as much as possible to try and protect themselves. Plus, loads of people will be taking profit. A lot of people have been accumulating. I spoke to somebody the other day. Their family's been accumulating silver literally since the 90s. He was getting presents when he was a young kid, and it was silver coins. So, like, I mean, what was the price? $5. You're up 20. What's that? 20x. Yeah, I think a lot of people will be taking profit. Well, I think the big thing for holding coins that are in a loss is you don't lose until you sell. So I think ultimately, if you're going to hold on it, or sell, then yeah, you just need to understand what you're selling and what you're buying. To be fair, I think so. This is something that I've heard quite a few times to do with liquidity. So actually, I think liquidity will improve, and the reason for that is because the liquidity pool will expand. And what you will find is there will be that kind of FOMO buying. There will just be more liquidity across the market. Market makers will be sitting on a lot more cash. They'll be able to fund the liquidity pools. So you should be able to get out coins a lot easier in the bull run. The liquidity will be a lot thicker. There'll be a lot more buy pressure as well. So yeah, I think slow and steady taking profits is easy. I think liquidity won't be an issue once we start moving. But yeah, right now liquidity is an issue because one, most teams don't have cash to fund the liquidity pools, and two, there's not a lot of buying. So you know, when somebody buys, they put USDT or USDC into the liquidity pool. There's not a lot of buying, so then there's not a lot of liquidity to sell out of. So you get slippage. That won't happen as much when we get into the bull run. Alright, that is all for tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. As I said, I'll be back on Wednesday night for FOMC. It'll be a CC Pro members only live. So if you aren't a member of CC Pro, get involved. And loads of questions coming in. I do one-on-one calls. Happy to go through anything with people. This could be a very important year for everybody. So feel free to book in. And yeah, let's come up with a plan for profit taking, for reading charts, for whatever you need. Alright, thanks for tonight, and I'll see you soon.